Our guest on this topic is Alon Pinkas, former Israeli ambassador, former chief of staff to four former foreign affairs ministers under Prime Ministers Shimon Peres and Ehud Barak. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Pinkas, from Tel Aviv. Tell me, do you agree with the Israeli government's claim that it is not responsible for the deaths of Palestinians on Thursday?
No, I don't. It may not be responsible for the actual physical death in that tragic event, but there is an overall responsibility. This is a direct result of the war, which was justified, but nonetheless, it is the Israeli military that controls northern Gaza. It was the Israeli military's job to distribute the humanitarian aid, in this case, food, rice, flour, and so on. And so abdicating responsibility by saying they were stampeded may be a technically inaccurate description, but it's still, Israel still has overall responsibility. And to be honest, I don't think it was very smart to deny this.
Would you say that it is a government policy in this war and perhaps in other conflicts as well to starve Palestinians in Gaza? Is this a war strategy that is being carried out?
No, it is not. It is a tragic and unfortunate outcome of the war, which we can argue about the way it was executed, the way it was managed, and the way force was employed, and the result was the inevitable humanitarian crisis, which could have been avoided. But that's relitigating 4.5 months of war. But it is certainly
Is Israel?
not,
I'm sorry. Is Israel not responsible?
It is responsible. It is absolutely responsible. I'm not saying it's not responsible. I began by telling you it is responsible. What I'm saying is it is not an intentional policy, Shona, to starve these people, but to say we don't intend to, but this is a natural outcome is morally questionable, a morally questionable proposition.
So we're hearing. I mean, you were a former chief of staff to four former foreign affairs ministers under, again, Prime Ministers Shimon Peres and Ehud Barak. Those two figures are today considered part of the opposition in Benjamin Netanyahu's government, faced with his party that is considered to be much more on the right. What is the place for dissent today in Israel faced with this ongoing war?
Well, there are two types of dissent, Shona, and we need to distinguish between them. There is dissent against Mr. Netanyahu that actually goes back to almost the entire year of 2023, when he instigated and launched a constitutional coup, and you had hundreds of thousands of people, pro-democracy protesters in the streets. Then came October 7th and the war. And here's where I make the distinction. The dissent against Netanyahu remains very strong. The protests are beginning to surface again, and I expect that to increase and accelerate in the next few weeks. However, at the same time, you have to understand the Israeli psyche and the Israeli mindset. People support the war. People think that Hamas should have been punished the way it was. People have no problem and no moral equivocations with the scale of the retaliation. And people, unfortunately, but I'm describing to you the mindset, people are somewhat oblivious to what is going on in Gaza, or to the pictures, indeed, that you're showing right now as we speak. The dissent, I think, will grow. It will be translated, Shona, into political dissent in the next few weeks. And I don't think this government is going to survive, irrespective of at what stage the war is going to be at.
Well, you're talking about a few weeks concerning political dissent, but do you think that this war, I mean, what effect will Thursday's incident, if you will, have on the war? Is this a turning point, or is this yet another gruesome, bloody milestone in this conflict, which has been going on now for 5 months?
Well, it's definitely a gruesome milestone. I agree with you. Whether or not it's a turning point remains to be seen. I think, Shona, a lot of it depends on the intensity or the scope of the American response. Until now, the Americans have been critical, but they have asked for more information. They have demanded an investigation. And indeed, as you said in your opening remarks, the U.S. is contemplating or considering or intends, in fact, to parachute food supplies into Gaza. Once the U.S. does that, Israel is not going to do anything. So in terms of the event, we can go back to 1996, in which year Israel conducted a major military operation against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And there was an incident not dissimilar to this one in which 108 people were killed as a result of an artillery shell. And that basically ended the war. I'm not saying this will necessarily end the war, but it could very well prove to be a turning point, certainly in terms of public opinion. Again, I would emphasize, I would look for cues from Washington rather than from other places.
Thank you so much, Alon Pinkas, former Israeli ambassador, former chief of staff, once again to four former foreign affairs ministers under Prime Ministers Shimon Peres and Ehud Barak. Thank you for joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you for answering our questions. We appreciate it here at France 24. Thank you so much.